Welcome to the Social Hotelier podcast with me, Sam-Erik. We have a great show today. We are talking about a topic that is very relevant in today's hospitality market, namely the branded residence. I have, of course, my favorite guest, Mark Dardenne, with me, who is in the area of the world, in the Gulf area, where there's a tremendous development of branded residences. So we'll have a chance to hear what Mark has, his expert opinion and insight to this very interesting part. So Mark, good to have you back again.
Sam, always a pleasure speaking with you and look forward to the session.
Yeah, branded residence. Maybe we have to qualify, what does it actually mean? What is your understanding of a branded residence?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. It's really something that popped up probably, 5, 6, maybe it started really 10 years ago, but really picked up in the last couple of years. And specifically here in Dubai, we have really a lot of these so-called branded residences of various levels, So I would like to maybe split them in two. One is branded residences that are associated with a hotel. You have all the big brands nowadays, especially the luxury brands, who add branded residences to the portfolio. As a customer, you obviously can enjoy the restaurants, the spa, in-room dining, whatever, housekeeping maybe, etc., etc. So I think that's one section. The other one is really independent residences, and some are branded by hotels. Like here in Dubai, they just launched the Ritz-Carlton residences, no hotel, but only residences. Six Senses has also launched a project, very successful. And then there's also just designer brands or specific brands that are well known, like Porsche or Mercedes. They just launched the Mercedes Tower, etc. So I think that's the two categories that I can see: one associated to a hotel, and the other one independent.
Yeah, I mean, my first introduction to Dubai was in the late 90s, where I was interviewing for a job with Dusit. And at that time, they were building the hotel, but it had also a residence part of it. But I didn't, to me, it was more like a hotel service apartment, because there was no investment by anyone over the buyer. Sort of, it was an extension of the hotel. But then things evolved. I mean, I could see that before I left Dubai about 10 years ago, then we start to see the kind of the branded residence popularity, and it came a little bit crazy. You saw all kinds of brands, and I was wondering, well, I thought this was about hospitality, but it was a brand of a well-known car manufacturer, which is a luxury brand. And then I thought I saw even Manchester United being advertised as a residence, but that maybe was just a quick thought by a developer that they want to try something. So it has really evolved quite a bit. And the latest I heard about is that over the past 10 years, the pipeline and also the residences popularity has grown by 150% by a Savills report. So it shows that this is really what many, not only developers, investors, but also brands, they are focusing on the residences.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you look at it, I mean, I guess the expectation of the developer, if he brings in a brand, is probably to get upside of, let's say, I would say 30% on the sales price, branded, non-branded, right? So depending on which brands, right? So, yeah. And the royalty fee that he would pay to the company can really vary from anywhere from a couple of percentages to up to 10%, which I believe Aman is asking for and getting. Potentially brands like Four Seasons, I'm not sure about Ritz-Carlton, but so this is a big upside, obviously, from a developer's point of view. And from an operator point of view, it's really easy money in a sense that the only thing you do is really brand the residences, and you get, obviously a share of that business, So I do understand why the developers and why the operators jumped on the opportunity, but it comes also with issues, and maybe we could discuss these issues from all sides, right? For the owner, for the operator, and also for the developer as well.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about the benefit is that there's a premium upfront in sales proceeds for the developer, and also the residents appreciate in a very different way than appreciate compared to non-branded residents that they would have. So there's clearly a huge benefit for them. Yeah, global premium was about 30% on unweighted basis, so it's quite a lucrative business. But then, and I was thinking about also from the buyer point of view, it's a hassle-free ownership, quality living. If you are getting into a well-known brand and you have all the services, the security, you maybe benefit from the loyalty programs of the brand. Mm-hmm. So there are many benefits there. So it's very interesting. But of course, you have to also, the developer has to be aware about what are the obligations when he jumps into the brand, that he has to fulfill the expectations on the brand standards. I haven't seen any top luxury brands in residence. I'm sure you have, where really it has to feel the look and feel of their luxury hotel also is converted into that residences that they are packages, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I have a couple of examples that we can maybe discuss. Just most recently, I was involved with the Raffles in London, the old War Office that was converted into really mixed use as a hotel, 125 key hotel, ultra luxury, restaurants, 6, 7, 8 different restaurants, and 85 residences sold under the Raffles brand, right? So obviously, for the developer, you mitigate your risk because obviously selling the residences gives you obviously cash from the residency. On the other hand, you have the hotel, and then you outsource some F&B and you get rental. So it doesn't make sense from an owner's point of view, and that was part of the development of those residences, which sold quite well, actually. The London market being a very hot market at the moment, and a very high premium, and everybody seems to be really benefiting. And when we looked a little bit at the profile of the owners, and these owners were really buying into a lifestyle, and they were very interested. Funny, I found that very interesting. They were extremely interested in what kind of restaurants are going to be part of the complex, right? Because they were thinking of their lifestyle and what kind of added facilities will they get, So they had access to their own gym, their own spa, their own dining room. They could avail of all the services from the Raffles, etc. So when you look at it, obviously these buyers, ultra net worth individuals, probably several properties all over the world, and they just bought into that lifestyle that is completely hassle-free. You made a very good point about security also. They are really buying into a secure environment. Let's say technically, if they had a beautiful apartment in London, they would have to employ staff. They had to take care of the maintenance. And obviously, they can appoint somebody to do it. But with a hotel, they can basically leave on the next morning or whatever in 2 months when they come back. They can be in touch with the hotel and make sure the hotel will make sure that the fridge is full, that the car is washed, that everything is ready for them and they can enjoy, So I do understand, obviously, this objective of buying into a lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you were involved with the Armani has a residences or?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a good example because that was really over 10 years ago when the Burj Khalifa was launched. And there also, Burj Khalifa has basically an Armani hotel, fully branded Armani hotel. And we had Armani residences designed by Mr. Armani, and then non-branded residences. So the size of the residences were the same, the unbranded and branded. And again, we achieved a 30% upside on the sale price per square foot, branded versus unbranded. Obviously, you bought also a furniture package, etc. It was completely furnished by Mr. Armani, and so on. So that was a good example, and also it was a huge success because it set a new benchmark in terms of real estate for downtown. When we launched the Armani residences at a very lucrative price, suddenly the whole real estate appreciated around the Burj Khalifa. So that was a very positive experience from a developer's point of view, for sure, from an operator's point of view. And I believe that the owners were quite happy with the services they can avail from the hotel.
Yeah, my best experience of a branded residence, I lived in Jumeirah residences while I was working in Dubai. And of course, I rented an apartment there with my wife, but then I didn't see much of an interior package be involved. You didn't feel there was a Jumeirah look and feel to the residences, but that didn't really bother us so much. I think the most important for us was that it was like a gated community. You feel very secure there. Had a great gym, had a reasonable restaurant, but the most important was the security and the great gym. And we were in a location which was virtually next to downtown, and so that was one of the best experiences, staying in a and of course the concierge service associated with a place was very good. So we got to know the staff got to know us, and there was a very, very nice time there. So it was a very positive experience. The Dusit, it was so early on to this game, so I think the interior and the services were more focused on the hotel side, and what it was the branded residence side was secondary. That's how we didn't put a lot of effort to lift up that at that time. But just because of the sheer location, those apartments were very, very popular.
Yeah. Obviously, I know those, and you're right. Security again is a huge part of it. Even if you live in a very secure place like Dubai, etc., but you want to be. I mean, London. London is like any big city. It's secure as much as any big city. But I think that's a big aspect. But there's some good experiences like those two, but there's also some negative experiences. I can tell you one is that I actually bought into branded residences, the Viceroy here in Dubai, and that was off plan with the promise of an international operator operating the hotel and the apartments. Obviously, I knew the Viceroy brand from the US, so that pushed me actually to buy the apartment because I liked the brand. But unfortunately, after a year, or just the opening of the hotel, the developer decided to take over the hotel and convert it to the 5, and with a completely different service proposition. And unfortunately, maybe I could have sued the developer, whatever, but I just didn't have the time and the interest to do it. So I had to really live with it. And whilst the apartment is very nice, it's not living up to the Viceroy expectations, right? So this is a bad example, or a good example of a bad experience. And I can imagine that it can happen anywhere else in the world, So sometimes you have to be a little careful on these branded residences from all sides. As an operator, you need to be really sure that you are partnering with a developer that has the same vision and understand the positioning of the brand and will respect that. And from a buyer's point of view, obviously, you need to do your homework, even though I did my homework, but obviously not enough, So there is some question marks around these branded residences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, talk about developers. It was quite interesting. I remember in Dubai, I will not mention the brand, but they had a developer sign an agreement with a very well known luxury brand in Dubai, and by signing the agreement with this brand, they actually thought that they had the rights to use the brand for whatever they were doing. So suddenly there was an announcement in another part of Dubai by this developer where he copy and pasted the brand logo and announced proudly that this is his new project. And that became a little bit of a sticky issue because the brand didn't feel very comfortable now how the brand was being used by the developer. And they had clearly a mismatch of understanding what was the rights of the use of the brand by the developer and what was basically the brand's intention or the company's intention. So that was sort of an example of kind of what I call the free-spirited developers who really see that once they have the brand, that they believe this is what they are. Another also example of this very same developer is that for him, brand standards was one thing, but he had also some great ideas according to his own idea. He wanted to do so many different things, and that became a little bit of a sticky issue now between the brand, the company that owned the brand, that with the developer who is free-spirited and really feel that they once they have signed an agreement, then they can run with it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It can become quite contentious. And I remember, obviously, I worked for some major brands, and I remember working with Ritz-Carlton, and quite a few years ago, we shied away from doing freestanding residences. So we said we're only going to do residences if they are associated with a hotel. So it's a hotel and residences. Now, these residences could be sold, that's fine, but we wanted to make sure that through the hotel, we could really safeguard the quality and safeguard the brand, basically. Now, obviously, this has changed over time, and now you have many Ritz-Carlton independent residences. They just launched some residences here, which I'm a little surprised that they did, right? It is what it is. And I think most of the brands have now done the same thing. Four Seasons, Raffles, Ritz-Carlton, all the big brands have done that now.
Yeah. But when you see a freestanding branded residence, it means that this clearly on its own is not associated with, it's not part of a hotel, and they're just an individual building that is only a residence, and they put then the luxury brand. Is that how it is?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is. I mean, the brands basically have brand standards in terms of sizes of the apartment. So a luxury brand would say the minimum size of the apartment is whatever they decide to do. It has to have a private concierge service. They look at the location. Does it fit? It doesn't fit. Obviously, they probably look at the developer. Does he understand luxury? And so on and so on. So, but it's really putting in the hands of a developer your brand, right? And the question mark is also how long the agreement will stand, because you're buying residences for many years, But like a typical management contract, maybe 15 to 25 years, except for Seasons that have longer contracts. So if there's a contract for, let's say, 15 years, and you buy a residence, what happens then to the brand, right? Because you're buying into a property.
A disadvantage for an operator could be that there is a loss of individuality eventually when you have you are there in increased competition within the brand when you are spreading yourself too thin in these with your brand for all these freestanding residences.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I agree with that. Again, how does the future look? I think my opinion is that all those branded residences have gone a little bit out of hand, and there will be a few disappointments. It's still something that will remain for sure, but there will be a few disappointments, and people are going to get a little bit more. Are going to question before they really go in on buy into these products.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, talking about the future of branded residences, I read somewhere and also have the feeling that people are looking for more customers or bespoke services that brands will turn to, like boutique living. So you see that kind of approach. So from it's moving into that direction possibly because now the customer expectations are changing, and they are as we talked about they're looking for a lifestyle, but also they have now further demands according to what their lifestyle is they're used to, and then they want to extend that into their branded residence.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's some other products, that, one interesting product that has been very, very successful in Dubai was obviously the address. When we did the address, the master developer was Imar, and it was a 600 key building, basically. And the idea was to develop 200 keys that are hotel keys and 400 residences that will be sold. And it has turned out to be extremely successful because also we gave the choice to the owners to say, look, you can live in the hotel, so it can be your primary residence. But if you want to buy it as an investment vehicle, we can rent it for you. So that would be obviously beneficial for the owner and the operator. We can rent it for you on long term or short term. So that gave really the opportunity to the owner to say, okay, let me first do long term as an example. Now maybe I'll go into short term, and finally maybe I'm going to live there, right? So it was not easy to operate, but honestly, because also the laws were not written yet in the UAE, so we kind of helped the government to write the laws, obviously, which are now well established. But it was a very interesting concept and hugely successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very interesting to follow what's going on in the Gulf, because that sort of is where it shows the direction where the branded residence might be going. I mean, besides the Gulf, I think United States and maybe Mexico and those areas which are continuously growing into that with the branded residences. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts of using certain fashion brands are jumping into this, and also I saw there's a Bentley has a residence even there. Maybe that talks about the lifestyle, but then that you have a restaurant brand that eventually became a hotel, and then they started with a residence. Is also an interesting development, like Nobu.
Yeah. I mean, Nobu, has been, obviously very successful as a hotel company. First as a restaurant, and then as a hotel. I would say that they have been very successful. Are now branching out in residency. Where I have a bigger question mark is, as an example, Bentley or Mercedes, etc., which I don't see the association that much, right? So Bentley, good, fine, maybe could be lifestyle, but at the end of the day, it's a car. It's really a car. Now you have also watches, a Rolex, the Rolex Tower. Okay, how does it look? So with Armani, it was an Armani designed apartment, including the furniture. So you really bought like it. I mean, some people liked it because they liked his style, and some people didn't like it because they didn't like the style, because it's obviously very, very clean lines, etc. Very, very, very masculine in a sense. But it had a clear identity. Now, I don't know what the identity of a Rolex Tower is, or a Rolex apartment, or a Bentley apartment, or a Mercedes apartment, because they're not really into real estate. They're not into design of apartments, right? So I've seen once a Bentley suite that was designed by Bentley for, I think, St. Regis, in one of the St. Regises, but there was one suite. And you had basically the logo of Bentley with a little leather, etc. So you felt, okay, fine. But I've not seen a full building, a full apartment, especially if you don't get the full furniture package. So you basically buy an apartment in a Bentley building, So again, question mark of, the advantage. And really, when I look at it, the branded residence that we were talking at the beginning is really very much in Asia. I think really in the Middle East specifically. I think Asia also, because I think Asians, Chinese, they're very brand conscious. But honestly, in Europe, I've not seen it very much, except the example that I did, that I mentioned to you in London with Raffles. And I know, Mandarin Oriental has service apartments or apartments branded, and Peninsula also just opened in London. But it's not really in secondary destinations, secondary cities. You don't really see it that much.
Yeah, these are, I think, in world cities like New York, there are branded residences coming up. I talked to one of the brand developers, and they will have purely a branded residence there in one of the skyscrapers, which will have a full set of facilities with restaurants, fitness centers, great security, and providing a great lifestyle in a very Manhattan address. So those areas, I think, is good. And I think it's just what the developer will have to be very careful when they quickly jump into maybe a brand that in their eye maybe is luxury, but also it will have an impact on the resale value of some reason if the brand lose its appeal. So developer will need to be very careful of with whom they work with, and then look at the track record and what the brand stand for.
Yeah. I mean, the developer is out of, if he sells all his apartments, he's out of it, right? So it's really the owner who is stuck with his apartment. And if the brand gets diluted for whatever reasons, suddenly, like you said, right? So suddenly the resale value of the apartment is really diminishing, right? So it is a danger. Another brand we could maybe talk about is Aman, because Aman is a great brand. I'm a big fan of Aman. You remember in Bali, when we were in Bali, the Amandari, etc., and Amanpuri, fantastic brand, right? So, and it's interesting that the Russian buyer has a real estate background, right? So his views were clearly that the business model was all based on residences and branded residences, because unfortunately these small boutique hotels, ultra luxury, generally don't make a lot of money, operational money, right? So they sometimes even lose money. But his whole focus was really on residences, on branded residences. So now PIF bought into Aman also, believing that there's definitely a future there.
Yeah, Aman is a great brand, and I remember seeing some of the initial properties that they developed and that they have the residence, and you really felt you are in an Aman. The look and feel, they are so good in that, really good.
Yeah, and they obviously launched New York, highly anticipated. I don't know if successful or not successful, but it was a big game changer, obviously, for them. Residences and club, etc. Also, the club, I know we're talking about branded residencies, but definitely another trend is obviously clubs, right? It goes a little bit in the same direction because, again, Soho Club and many of those social clubs or business clubs, like in London or New York, etc. It's really about that community, the like-minded community that wants the arts club as another example of people wanting to be part of a community. So buying a branded residences, in a sense, you buy yourself a little part of that world, right? So if you have a Cartier tower or a Cartier apartment, you buy yourself into that luxury world, in a sense, right? Even if it's psychological, that you can brag a little bit. Oh, I live in a Cartier tower, whatever it is, right? So it is really interesting.
Yeah. Also, if we're looking at the generation of baby boomers who are retired and they're looking for a lifestyle which is not going to be party anymore, but they're looking for, if they have had a membership in a private city club and they're looking for a place to stay in a world city that has also similar activities as in a city club. You have guest speakers, you have private dining and so on. What comes to my mind is the embassies. They call themselves. I think they have the first one in Zurich, and they're developing, and they're really focusing on people who are retired from working life, but also like to have a living in almost like in a city club environment, and there is a freestanding restaurant on the street level, so they will meet mixed with the community. So it could be something into that where we are looking at the kind of lifestyle that the retirees in the 70s and 80s like to have, but also they like to have a interesting, have a chance to still have a good life involving socializing with people who are like-minded.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's an interesting concept. And there'll be more of these concepts coming up, I think, but many more coming up. And again, it's also interesting to see how the brands really expand their brands into different businesses, like cruises, for example. Obviously, you have a Ritz-Carlton cruise, you have a Four Seasons cruise, and you have the airplanes, right? So you have Four Seasons who does run the world in Four Seasons, right? So where is it going to stop? I think it's a good connection because a cruise is basically a floating hotel, and it's quite interesting that the typical cruise operators now are trying to up their game a little bit. I mean, some are obviously very high end, but they feel a little threatened by these brands coming into their turf, right? Because I'm not a big cruise person, right? So I've done a couple of small cruises, but I don't want to be in a 1,000-cabin cruise ship. But some people really enjoy that, and for them to branch out into the cruise business. In a sense, it's also branded residences, because I've heard of one product is you actually buy the cabin, so you actually buy into the cabin, so it's your cabin, and you can travel the whole year. Basically, you travel the whole year, and you live in an apartment, but it happens to be in a cruise ship, and it's branded, So it's very interesting how that happens. It comes with great opportunities. But also, obviously, it can go wrong sometimes, right? It's like we discussed a couple of examples.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting that you never leave your home, but the world is changed. The view is changing as the cruise ships moves from one place to another.
Exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this is a very good discussion. We have looked at all aspects and explored what the branded residence is, how it started, and what's pros and cons, and from all sides. So it's very, very interesting to see where it evolves, and it's clearly here to stay.
Yes, I think so. I think so. Certainly. Like I mentioned, obviously, everybody has to do their due diligence when they buy into a product like this, right? So, and obviously, the operators have to really understand the threats that they could be, and I think they do. And for me, it's really having some serious due diligence with the partnerships, right? To make sure that you have the right partners on board that really share the same vision, and don't think too short-sighted to say this looks like a good opportunity to make some revenues, and afterwards you have to deal with it and regret it maybe.
Yeah. Since this episode was recorded towards the start of the festive season, I think it's very appropriate to, we have quite a few listeners in the French-speaking world, and I think you speak French, right?
Oui, je parle français.
Okay, so I think it would be nice if you say in French some happy festive season, and I will say it in Finnish.
Oh, très bien, très bien. Alors, je souhaite à tout le monde des belles fêtes avec la famille et les amis et une très bonne année.
Ja minä toivotan kaikille suomalaisille ja suomenkielisille oikein hyvää joulua ja onnellista uutta vuotta.
Very good.
Och på svenska talande önskar jag god jul och gott nytt år.
Excellent. Sam, always a pleasure speaking to you, and let's do another session maybe in the new year.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, and to you, Mark, and your family and loved ones, also happy festive season.
Thank you. Same to you and your families.